video is brought to you by Phillips 66 Lubricants, keeping the world running smoothly. Hey guys, what's going on? Wayne here. You're watching Equipment World. Welcome into another episode of The Dirt, the video podcast that brings you interviews on the latest in heavy equipment and compact equipment and the construction industry. Today on The Dirt, we welcome in Matt Goedert, a solutions marketing manager at John Deere, to talk about Deere's latest motor graders. I asked Matt to come and join us today on The Dirt because Deere recently introduced a few upgrades for its graders. Specifically, it introduced a few upgrades on its GP series graders, and it introduced a few new features on its SmartGrade, its massless machine control platform called SmartGrade. It introduced some features on the graders for SmartGrade that I wanted to talk with Matt a little bit about and give Matt a chance to kind of give everybody an idea of where the Deere motor grader lineup currently is. All right, so let's talk motor graders. Let's get into it. Hey, Matt, man, thank you so much for joining us today here on The Dirt. Hope you're doing well, man.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, Matt, before we get into the specifics on the new features on Deere motor graders, give me a quick overview, kind of in your opinion, of where the John Deere motor grader lineup is currently at. What's kind of been the focus for Deere engineers for the latest upgrades with these machines, and how would you characterize how they stack up with the competition?
Today, the grader lineup consists of really 8 models. So we have 4 tandem drive models and then 4 6-wheel drive models. So we have the 670 and 672 machines. We have the 770, 772, and then we have the 8770 and 872 models. So all of those models are configurable in both the G and GP. Really what that means is the G is our standard antler rack design. So we have a lot of customers that grew up running the antler rack, the mechanical linkage on the controls, and those customers that are familiar with that like that design. But then we also offer the GP model as well. So the GP stands for Grade Pro. And what that does for the customer is really unlocks a lot of cool features and allows them to put technology onto the machine. So think of grade control, which is really prominent in the industry today. In order for grade control to work, the machine has to have an EH valve to really control the blade. So that's what that GP adds, along with a different control set. So I talked about the G models having the antler rack manual linkage controls. The GP models actually offer 2 control options. So it gives operators a choice between fingertip controls and then our optional joystick controls. So there's 2 control patterns there. The cool thing about them on our GP machines is that they're interchangeable. So say a customer has a GP machine with fingertip controls. In about 30 to 40 minutes, they can swap those out to joystick controls. So based on operator preference, or if they want to switch over and try the other one. And then of course, with the GP models, we also include with all GP, John Deere standard cross slope feature, which is an awesome feature for a lot of different applications. What that feature does is gives the operator the ability to enter in a cross slope value so that the blade maintains that cross slope, and then the operator can control the blade elevation on one side. So he doesn't have to control both sides to maintain that cross slope. Really, he controls one slide to maintain that elevation, and the other side automatically raises or lowers to maintain that predetermined cross slope value. As far as the lineup today, really, we remain focused on listening to customer feedback. So if something needs updated or a cool feature that our customers thought of that needs to be added, we're going to hear that from our customers. Our engineering group does a phenomenal job of taking customer input, developing a feature that really solves that problem the customer has, that pain point, and then puts it in the machine. So we hear all the time through our customer events that, customers are excited when they're involved because they know we're going to listen. bake in their ideas, and they get to operate it, the end product, see what their input built. It's a really cool, rewarding thing we do at John Deere. So it's no secret in the industry today, a lot of customer input is skilled operators are harder and harder to come by. So that's something we hear all the time. There's turnover. There's really experienced guys that are retiring from the industry today. So anything we can do to make our motor graders easier to use, more comfortable to operate, that's really been a big focus for us moving forward.
All right, so Matt, you were just talking about the GP series and some of the kind of features that are inherent to that kind of that configuration of these graders. I kind of you already mentioned some of those features, but could you kind of talk about the customer that you feel this GP series is really aimed at? Just kind of like for those listening out there, who do you think should really consider the GP series, or who is this really aimed at and kind of developed for? Who is that customer in mind?
Yeah, when we think about our customer segments on graders, it's a little different because we have our governmental sector. Think about the counties maintaining county roads, moving snow with graders, things like that. And then we also have our contractor side, which are building new roads, and both customers really require precise grading in both applications. When we think about G versus GP, the GP fits both sides. So it's been a very popular option on our graders. And the reason for that is just the comfort that it adds for the operator. Think of a G machine with the antler rack design. Those antler rack controls are fixed in the machine. So really when you get in the cab and sit down in the seat, you're positioning yourself really around the controls. You're moving yourself to fit up to the controls. When you think about the GP option, you're sitting in the seat relaxed. You don't have to sit up in the seat. You can sit however you're comfortable, and you're able to configure the controls to fit you. So you're moving the controls to you versus moving yourself to the controls, which makes the operators a lot more comfortable throughout the day on long shifts. It's a really nice feature on our GP machines. And then think of resale value. So a lot of counties might not run grade control on their machines to maintain roads. But what we see in John Deere, a lot of times when those counties trade in their machines, those machines get resold to dirt work contractors. So having the GP option helps with the resale value of the machines, just because it gives that second customer the ability to add on the technology of their choice, and makes it a lot more versatile for that customer.
So yeah, would you kind of characterize the GP as kind of like the premium trim of the graders? Is that kind of like a lay way of putting it?
It is, yeah. It definitely adds versatility to the machine, unlocks a lot more features. And throughout this video, I'm sure we'll talk about SmartGrade and automation, but those certainly are valuable in that GP option.
Yeah, and actually, some of the latest updates to hit these graders are some of these GP specific features. The GP models are actually getting 2 new features here as of late, and that is blade stow and auto gain for cross slopes. So Matt, kind of take us through both of those features. What is blade stow? What is auto gain for cross slope? And how do those features kind of play into day-to-day operation, and where do operators really see the benefit?
But before we get into that, I do want to take a quick second right here to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Phillips 66 Lubricants. Look, construction and mining are tough environments, not just on the people doing these jobs, but on the machines that they're using to get those jobs done. And when you depend on a machine to move massive amounts of dirt in as little time as possible and in extreme hot and cold conditions, these machines need the toughest lubricants possible to protect them. See, Phillips 66 has put thousands of hours into testing products like Gardol ECT, and with proven wear and corrosion protection, it's clear why 60% of the thousands thousands of mining operations in the United States trust one brand to keep their equipment going, Phillips 66 Lubricants. So look, whatever you've got, graders, end loaders, dump trucks, Phillips 66 will protect it. You can even call the Phillips 66 technical hotline and talk to experts one-on-one about their product. Phillips 66 Lubricants, keeping the world running smoothly.
Going back to cross slope, what I mentioned came standard on GP machines. What we've done is automated the gain values for our John Deere cross slope feature. What gain is how fast the blade reacts. So depending on what types of material you're in or how fast your grader is moving when you're using cross slope, it affects how fast the blade needs to react. So what we've done is we're actually the first in the industry to add that auto gain to our cross slope feature. So as the machine's moving, based on machine parameters such as speed, the gains automatically adjust to the optimal working conditions for that material and the speed that you're moving. So that's what the auto gain feature does. It really limits how much the operator needs to go in there and manually adjust hydraulic parameters to get the performance that they're looking for. So it allows the operator to focus on grading, being productive, and managing that material. Now, we also added blade stow, which is part of our automation suite. At the release of SmartGrade in early 2019, we also released a list of automation features that really make inexperienced operators or new operators more proficient in the machine. When we think about a grader, the grader is not the simplest machine to operate. So these automation features allow a newer operator to get up to speed quicker, as well as experienced operators just making their life easier, automating some of the movements that are made constantly when you're operating a grader so that they can focus their mind on other things. When we released SmartGrade, we released 3 automation features. So we released auto articulation, we released blade flip, and then machine presets as well back in early 2019. The blade stow is just another automation feature tied into machine presets. So we're continuously developing new automation features to make our machine easier. And really, when we think about these features, auto articulation is really handy because it automatically articulates based on when you steer the front tires. So that think of when you're making a grading pass and grading around an obstacle, there's a lot of things you're looking at and a lot of functions you're trying to control in a grader. By automatically articulating, it just takes away one of those functions that the grader operator has to think about and move. The cool thing about our auto articulation feature is that it does allow the operator to make independent adjustments to articulation. So let's say he's trying to get up close to an object and they want to manually articulate the machine. They can still override auto articulation, make their fine adjustment, and then once they steer the front tires more and align with the rear tires, auto articulation will kick back in. So that's one automation feature that we developed. The second one I mentioned was blade flip. So blade flip, as simple as it sounds, is really handy. So think of making a grading pass, and at the end of the pass, we just want to turn 180 degrees and come back and continue the pass. Blade flip, with a press of one button, will pick the blade up, angle the blade to a predetermined angle, and then you can lower the blade, continue with the pass. So think about when you raise the blade and turn manually with the machine, you're constantly having to hold the circle rotate function to angle that blade to mirror that position or mirror that angle. So auto articulation does it with the press of a button rather than have to hold that function for 10 seconds to mirror it. So we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that automation feature. It's pretty handy as an operator. And then we also developed machine presets, which is another industry exclusive. What machine presets do is allow you to program in different configurations of the grader. So think about transport mode when you want to take the machine, run down the road with it, maybe to another job or to another county road. The machine preset allows you to program in to enable auto shift, to stow the rear ripper, or to stow the blade now, or to turn on the working lights, the hazards, the beacons. So all that we can set up in the monitor so that when we press one button on our sealed switch module, all of those events occur. And then the machine's ready to go down the road. So really just automates a lot of the cumbersome features or movements that the operator has to do. As I mentioned, blade stow is now a part of that. So now what you can do is program the blade to raise up and angle to a predetermined angle so that you're ready to transport the machine.
So blade stow is also available with SmartGrade. So essentially, you guys have taken one of those SmartGrade machine preset features, and you've made it part of the GP series, kind of by default, even without SmartGrade. Am I understanding that correctly?
So all the automation features are optional on GP machines. With SmartGrade, so if you order the SmartGrade option, all of these automation features are included with SmartGrade, which makes it a really good value for the SmartGrade option. And we're not done developing these automation features. Looking down the road, there's a lot of cool things that customers are thinking of and that our engineers are implementing into our machines. And when we think about automation, there's one other automation feature that we developed a year ago, is the machine damage avoidance. So think about when you look at a grader, usually there's some chunks taken out of the tire or the steps got ripped off from the blade contacting the machine. Machine damage avoidance limits that damage, prevents it from happening by limiting the hydraulic function. So once you get close to the tires, hydraulics are going to stop you from penetrating the tires or the steps or the frame. So that's a real cool feature that we developed that's part of this automation suite that is optional on all GP machines. Now, you don't have to order a brand new machine to get this automation suite. It is available on used machines too. So contact your John Deere dealer if you want one or all of these automation features.
Okay, so blade stow and auto gain for cross slope, those are basically just two new available options. Is that correct for the GP series?
That's correct. Yes.
Well, Matt, you were kind of just talking about some of the interplay there between SmartGrade and the GP series, and so let's go ahead and we'll move into SmartGrade proper. We could probably kind of figure it out if they weren't familiar with SmartGrade just by kind of hearing some of the stuff you were saying there. But for the uninitiated, what is SmartGrade? How do you get it? On a grader? What graders is it available for? How does Deere kind of tailor this technology specifically for its graders? Because it is kind of like a Deere platform wide term. You can get it on dozers. You can get it on, now you can get it on a CTL. So kind of talk about, how Deere kind of tailors this specifically for graders and what you can expect out of the platform on a grader.
Just as you mentioned, Wayne, SmartGrade is John Deere's massless 3D grade control system. So you can get it on crawlers, graders, soon to be CTLs. So really that's massless, factory integrated 3D grade control. And on graders, it's really handy because there's no components to install on the machine or take off the machine at the end of the day or beginning of your shift. So really there's nothing to get on in the way on a grader. Think about a traditional grade control system on a grader. You might have a mast on one side or both sides of the blade, which really limit how much you can move the machine. So when you think about accuracies, your best accuracies with a traditional system are with the blade centered under the machine, the mast completely vertical, front tires not leaned, have those straight up. And really, if you do any extreme function outside of that standard grading position, your accuracies tend to degrade a little bit. The big thing about SmartGrade on graders is it allows the operator to operate without limitations. And what I mean by that is if a customer wants to lean the tires, articulate, shift the circle, pitch the blade, they can do any function on that grader without losing accuracy. So they can stay within that 10th spec and hopefully a lot tighter than that, which gives the SmartGrade a lot of value. And it just frees the operator's mind up. He doesn't have to be constantly worried about where those masts are. If he's going under a tree, he doesn't have to worry about those being in the way. It's completely massless, and he can do whatever he wants to do with that machine while maintaining those accuracies. One thing that allows us to be that precise are the sensors we chose to integrate into the machine for the SmartGrade option. So we released SmartGrade right away in 2019, and we're actually using encoded cylinders on our SmartGrade machines. So the sensors are actually internal to all 5 of the cylinders attached to the blade, which allow us to know precisely where that blade is at all times. Now, that technology we've been using on other product lines for a number of years on both our ag division and forestry division. We just carried that over to graders, and we made the decision to include those cylinders on all GP machines moving forward, whether it has SmartGrade on it or not. And that allows us to make those automation features and do a lot of unique things that we couldn't do without those sensors. So when we think about the future, having those sensors on the machine is critical to bringing features to market that are new and haven't been done before, which is exciting.
Now, are those, you said those sensors, those essentially make it possible basically for the GP series machines to kind of really have like an, almost like an a la carte kind of choice of some of those automation features without going full into, SmartGrade is definitely a value whenever you consider you're getting everything in kind of like one thing. But for those customers, who do kind of want some but not all of those features, the GP series is definitely the way to go, it sounds like. And what's making that possible is those cylinders, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Customers, they might want a few of those features. They can do what they want, right? They have the freedom to purchase just a few of the features that they might see value in. They can purchase all of them. Or, like we mentioned earlier, if they do purchase SmartGrade option, all of those automation features are included.
Well, Matt, the you guys have also made some upgrades to SmartGrade itself here recently. First up is with file processing. The system can actually now handle larger files. It can process files 20% faster, according to the materials that you guys sent along. So could you kind of talk a little bit about what that's going to feel like to the operator? What's that going to kind of amount to in terms of the experience of transferring files to the machine day to day?
Yeah, since we released SmartGrade, we've continued to make updates to it and make it better. So there's back-end updates like the larger files and the processing speeds that are imperative to a grade control system, right? As more contractors are using grade control and creating 3D models, systems need to handle those larger files, which our SmartGrade grader does. Now, there's also some front-end updates that we made that make our SmartGrade option even more flexible. And what I mean by that is we updated to include LPS functionality. So when we think about LPS, that is running a grader with a prism and running off a robotic total station. So customers might want more accuracy out of their grader than just using GPS. If they want to get down to the millimeter accuracy, they're probably going to run other technology. The cool thing about our LPS functionality that we built into our software is that feature is massless as well. So standard, that prism for the LPS would be on the blade on the mast. Now that prism is actually on top of the cab, so the machine remains massless when you're using that functionality. We're also, SmartGrade is capable of running other technology, such as millimeter GPS from Topcon, to get down to that millimeter accuracy on a 3D system, as well as retain that functionality for 2D systems. So there's a lot of customers out there that might run GPS, but then they're inside a building and want to use a 2D laser system. Or there's a case where they still do at times want to run a sonic system off a curb line or a string line. The SmartGrade option is capable of running those 2D systems that customers probably already have, as well as adding on 3D functionality such as the LPS and millimeter GPS. Other things we've done with our SmartGrade system is we updated the software to handle network corrections. So when we think about 3D GPS, usually traditionally runs off of a local base station. Something becoming a little more common in the industry is some contractors are actually running off cell networks rather than running off a local base station. Now there's trade-offs to both, but really the network base makes it set up simpler. Don't have to constantly set up a base station or worry about that. So with SmartGrade, customers are able to run off networks as well. Some of our customers might be running mixed fleets of technology providers, right? So it's important for customers to be able to connect our SmartGrade machine to a Trimble base station, a Leica base station, Topcon base station. With our latest software updates, our machine is capable of installing aftermarket radios on the machine to achieve that interoperability. Now there's other things that have to happen, like file conversions to make sure you have the right file types loaded to the machine, but that upgrade to the software just makes it easier to do that interoperability with different suppliers.
Now, another kind of upgrade to the SmartGrade system, you guys have increased the stability of RTK radio. Talk a little bit about that update.
Yeah, with any GPS system, like I mentioned before, typically you're running off a local base station, and that base station is transmitting radio corrections to the machine. So anytime you lose those RTK corrections, the system is not usable on the machine. So it's imperative that we have a reliable solution on our SmartGrade machine. So anytime we can get a better signal or more reliable signal from the base station, it really increases uptime for the customer, allows the customer to use the SmartGrade machines even up close to tree lines or closer to buildings, just to make it a lot easier and a lot more useful to the operator.
So Matt, another upgrade to SmartGrade graders is going to be the inclusion of a factory installed premium circle. So, as long as you, buy a grader and you outfit that grader with SmartGrade, you're going to get a factory installed premium circle on the machine. Go into what makes this a premium circle. What benefits does that give customers? How does that play out in day-to-day operation of the machine?
Premium circle is something we brought to market that's kind of completely new to the industry from an equipment manufacturer standpoint. The premium circle replaces a traditional circle you would see on a motor grader with a fully sealed bearing type circle. So the premium circle gives customers multiple benefits. think about a traditional circle on a grader. Over time, the circle wears. There's wear inserts built into the circle that you have to adjust to tighten up the circle to maintain grading accuracy. So with the premium circle, we eliminate all of those wear points so that the operator, the customer, doesn't have to adjust the circle at all as the machine wears or accumulates hours. So when we think about a grade control system on a grader, that is huge, because a traditional circle, you're constantly having to make adjustments to that circle as it wears, which brings the circle table up, which changes your blade elevation. So as the blade wears, the circle wears, you have to compensate that with the grade control system. With the premium circle, you don't have to adjust anything. Mainly just compensate for cutting edge wear and you're good. So it goes hand in hand with any type of grade control system on a grader. And another thing the premium circle does is it increases both the speed and the torque of the circle. So think about on a grader, we have a large load on the blade. The premium circle increases circle torque up to 40%. So if we have a large load, we can still manage material, rotate that circle so the material goes where we want it to go as an operator. We also upgraded the speed up to 15%. So it just makes the speed of the circle faster, quicker to react so that we can manage material better. So when we think about just all the advantages that come with the premium circle, makes it more productive, lowers operating costs, not having to maintain the circle. And really the only maintenance to the premium circle is to grease the 5 grease zerks we have on it every 500 hours. So really it's pretty low maintenance and it maintains accuracy. It doesn't get the movement in the circle like a traditional one would.
Well, Matt, man, thank you so much for joining us today on The Dirt to kind of discuss kind of like the current kind of state of the Deere grader lineup and some of the new additions that are definitely making operators' lives a lot easier, man. Thank you so much for joining us today, man, and hope the rest of the day goes well for you, bud. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Wayne. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have today on The Dirt. Thank you again to Matt for joining us to talk about graders. And let us know what you think of the new Deere motor graders. Let us know what you think of these GP series upgrades and the SmartGrade updates. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you liked this video and found the information in it useful at all in your next machine purchase, please do us a favor and hit that like button below. It really helps the channel out. And if you want more coverage of the construction industry, of heavy equipment, do us a favor and hit us up at the website equipmentworld.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter. And if you haven't already, subscribe right here to the channel on YouTube and hit the bell, turn on notifications so you're getting up to the minute alerts whenever we drop a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate the time, and we'll see you next time.